Hello, we are live. Hello, and welcome to anyone who's tuned in for our second short shifts of the season. I was there for episode 1 with Lewis. Now I'm here. I'm Elon, of course, here with Ben Burnett for episode 2. And once again, I'm going to hand over the reins to our host. But hey, Ben, welcome to the YouTube channel.
Thank you so much, Elon. It's nice to see you again after our very competitive Tier 1 draft on Sunday.
Totally. Yeah. Oh yeah. So you've been on this YouTube channel multiple times, even just this week. So obviously no stranger. That was an awesome draft. But okay, anyways, let's save all the fun small talk for the show. So I'll hand it over to you and let's get going. Doom doo doom doom doo. That song's just finished. Doo 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 doo.
I can't. I just want to say thank you for joining me, Elon. And I feel like you're like the new, you're almost the honorary short shift host yourself after being on both of our first 2 episodes.
Hey, well, the plan is I'm planning on doing a bunch of short shifts this year.
Yes, you will definitely be helping me out, especially, I guess, starting next week. I'll need anyway.
Yeah, I like short shifts. It's fun.
Short
It's
shifts
easy.
are perfect. It's
so
so
short.
easy. Yes. The only issue with doing short shifts in terms of like the workload is that when you're doing it every single week, it becomes a bit more ritualistic. But I would imagine from your perspective, doing like a 4-hour record every Sunday is a breeze.
Yeah, well, and also, well, anyway, 2 hours, but yeah, definitely, the short shifts feels like nothing compared to the main show. But I like it. I think it's a great idea to
Yeah,
give
we are
people.
smart.
Yeah, we came up with good ideas, and we've got a very smart show today. So I'm excited to get to it.
Yeah, hi to Fantasy Tidbits and Sir Fonty, by the way. It's nice to we're being watched by 3 people, Elon. Congrats.
Nice. Well, actually, oh yeah, that's all. Well, that's okay.
Should we
Some
tweet
people.
this? Let's tweet this. Let's throw
That's
a little
okay.
tweet up.
All right, you could go for it. Yeah. Also, people sometimes watch after the fact
Mhm.
on the YouTube, so this is going to be there forever to see our nice face, our yellow tinted lit rooms.
Yeah, the lighting in here is pretty amazing, huh, guys? Very professional style. Elon, when is Keeping Karlsson gonna spring for ring lights for all of us anyway?
How much is that? I don't even really know what that is.
I have no idea. A ring
I
light?
fe-
Oh, it's like all the TikTokers are using them.
I mean, I feel like we can probably do that. We have a bit of a budget.
There you go. I just that's how you make the big bucks from your employers, folks. You get them on YouTube live and then you ask for whatever you want and they
All
they
right.
gotta say yes.
Yeah, but get a pack of 4, send them across the country to Lewis and Brian and myself, and we're all gonna look great. Yeah, I was watching a bit of our draft video from Sunday, and there's like Michael Clifford in like a nice well lit room, and then it cuts to Brian, who looks all like pale and like it looked almost like a black and white video because I guess that lighting wasn't good. It was a really stark difference.
I just tweeted, come join us on Yahoo because we were talking about the draft.
Maybe you should delete that tweet.
I did, yeah.
I mean, we're gonna be in and out of here. By the time they see the tweet, the show's already gonna be over, so I think we're good.
It's gonna take me 10 seconds to finish this tweet.
All right. Get the tweet going. And then, yeah, still an Islanders hat this year. Okay, yeah, I should get another hat because I've done my. I always like to wait till after my cupful draft and then kind of look at my team. I have 2 teams. Ben, what hat should I get? I could either get Colorado because I've got Kemper and Rantanen, or I could buy Florida because I've got Barkov and Verhage. Plus, I made a bet on the Panthers to win the cup this year. So it makes me
Ooh.
kind of lean Florida, I guess. Maybe I should get a Panthers hat. Also, it's cool. It's like an animal. I like animals. Get that panther on the hat.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of the Avs jersey color scheme. I love that maroon. I know a couple people have talked crap about it. Shouts out to Brian Com.
Mm,
But I love the Panthers logo, and I think you could get a sick Panthers hat.
okay, I'm gonna get a sick Panther. You know what? Tomorrow, I'm gonna walk over to the Hockey Hall of Fame. I'm gonna go buy myself a Panthers hat. Maybe I'll even send a picture to you of all their options, and you could even tell me which one I should get.
Oh, please do, Elon. I'll be honest, lately my my I guess my grounding technique for when I'm on the internet and just need to like chill out for a few minutes is to go on nhlshop.com and just
Mm.
like browse the clearance stuff and just be like, oh, that would be so cool or
Oh,
whatever.
nice. Well, I
Yeah.
need to go in person because I got to try it on. I got kind of a big head, so I need to make sure the hat's gonna fit me. I don't. I guess I could look and see what the size is of this one, but
I have
I
an
like to try it.
anecdote about the Panthers. I had my my first present I got for graduating grade 5. I want to say my folks were like, "Here you go. It's your big, you know, elementary school graduation present, which in retrospect is a hilarious concept to me. But they bought me a Florida Panthers hat. That was the year that the Panthers would have made the finals, I guess,
Oh, John Van Beesbrook as the
with
goalie.
JVB, who in retrospect maybe not my favorite goalie, but it was. I'm a big fan of those. Like you've got one over there. It's like the block color with the logo. So this was an all red hat, even the bill, and the logo was off center, just like the
Oh,
big panther, like taking up. I thought it was so cool.
do you still have
Um,
it? I guess your
I
head's grown.
wish I would crush. I don't know what crushing is in this context. I would love. I have a crush on the concept of still having that hat.
Okay, I hope I'll find a cool hat. Now I want a hat with like a panther just like sprawled all across the hat. That would
Same.
be so
Same.
neat.
My current hat, I'm pretty stoked about. It's the Winter Classic Predators logo. And anyway,
Well, we,
let's get into it.
yeah, we might have some Preds talk today, so let's do it.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Short Shifts Fantasy Hockey Podcast. I am your host, Ben Burnett, joining the show for the first time this season, and joining me as a special co-host for his second show of the season, Elon Dubrovsky. Elon, my friend, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Ben. Last time I talked to you, we were drafting for the Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Fantasy League Tier 1, and I think you and I did pretty well. And actually, things are looking, unfortunately, because of some unfortunate news, my team's even looking a little bit better because my goalie's Darcy Kemper, who now all of a sudden Francouz is injured, so all of a sudden my Kemper pick looks even better. I streamed in Jake Allen, which there's some... Anyways, we'll get to all of it, but I'm just saying, like, I was already happy on that show, and now I'm even happier, and I'm also just happy to talk to you and do short shifts. And I can't even really be rambling like this. I have to keep reminding myself, this is short shifts. This is a quick show. So I got to stop talking. We got to get into it.
Well, and Elon, I'm calling an audible like a minute into the show because I didn't include Francouz. I didn't think we were going to get into it. And as a story, it didn't jump to me the way that some of the other ones here. But I do want to say, as you bring it up, I would be a little bit worried as a Kemper owner here. Obviously, volume's amazing. And if he can stay healthy, that rocks. But we've seen Kemper struggle to stay healthy in the past. Does it not concern you that this is Darcy Kemper who might have to start 80% of the games? That would worry me a little bit.
Look, Ben, like, what am I going to do? I can't control the things that are out of my control. Right now, I've got a volume starter on Colorado. I hope he doesn't get hurt. I don't know. Like, take your vitamins, Darcy Kemper. Like, do your stretching. Like,
Right.
hopefully they'll figure out how to keep him healthy. Like, they need him, right? If they don't have him, they're going to be back like last year with Jonas Johansson, and maybe they get Devin Dubnyk to come back. Like, that would be a disaster, right? So, hopefully... Well, I mean, Dallas does have like a million goalies available. So, I guess if Kemper got injured and Francouz was still out, maybe then Colorado would reach out to Dallas. But anyway, right now I'm happy, but don't jinx it, please.
Okay. And you know what? Hollering out to Dave Benton here. He is the one who's always jinxing players. So hopefully Dave leaves you alone on this one too.
Okay.
But like you said, Elon, this is short shifts. We don't have time to get onto any long shifts. We got to jump into another short shift. We're starting in Montreal, the biggest story in hockey, probably for... I would assume that this is going to be the biggest story for a little while now. Carey Price is now out for at least a month to start the season after the Habs put him on he entered the league's voluntary assistance program. We don't have any specifics, and I'm definitely not going to be speculating as to why he joined. But obviously, from the Keeping Karlsson Short Shifts family, we're sending out our love to Carey Price, and hopefully he deals with what he's got going on and he feels better soon. But this means that he'll be back at the earliest in early November. I would be shocked if he's back that soon, just based on the type of discussion that's been going on around this situation, which means that Jake Allen should get a run to start the year. I think people really remember Allen for having a great year last season because he started out so hot. But I remember him because over his last 19 starts, he was really, really mediocre. I guess really bad even. He was a sub 900 goalie, finished the season with just a 907 save percentage. To me, and I was somebody who was a hater of the Jack Allen, the the Jake Allen trade when it happened in the offseason. And now that 927 save percentage in 2020 is beginning to look like the outlier, I would say. So given this news where Price is out for quite a while, do you think Allen is a must add in most formats now?
Yeah, so a lot of things there. First of all, like Jake Allen, like struggling at the end of last season, so fine. He joins the club with Carter Hart and Mackenzie Blackwood. Like last season was weird. A lot of goals were run into the ground because of big, dense schedules. The COVID, like I'm throwing out most of the COVID season anyway, so I'm not too worried about Allen like fizzling out at the end of last season. But at the same time, I'm not like a super Jake Allen booster just in general. I remember being against you when you were against that trade. Like I thought it was a good trade for the Habs. I remember when we talked to Arpon Basu, he gave the analogy of like if you have a really fancy car, then you want to definitely spend money on upkeep to keep it in good shape. And so it's like if you have like a really expensive goalie and good goalie and Carey Price, you need to have a good backup so you don't run your Carey Price starter into the ground. And that was the plan with Jake Allen. But now it turns out that another benefit of having Jake Allen is not only to give Carey Price rest, but to have a starting goalie in case Carey Price is just injured or needs to go to the assistance program. And don't forget, Carey Price was already injured. Like I added him right after the Cupful draft because, like I said, I only had Darcy Kemper, and I added Price because, or I added Allen just because I was thinking that Price already had this other injury. So who even knows when Price is going to be back, right? Like he's going to go into the assistance program. He might be back, like you said, in a month, could be longer. So that's just a long, winding road for me to say, yeah, go add Jake Allen. Like at the same time, I'm not saying he's going to be amazing, right? Like the Habs, like they're not terrible. Obviously, they made it to the Cup Finals last year, but they're not looking like so amazing. They're weak at C. They only really have two centers in Suzuki and Dvorak. Their D isn't that great. They lose Shea Weber. So I don't know. And Jake Allen himself hasn't been a successful volume starter since like 2016, 17 or whatever
I
in
would
St.
say
Louis.
ever, really. He
Like,
never really carried on the volume as a volume starter. Anytime
yeah,
he turned into the starter, it kind of got a little shaky.
well, he had one good year, and when he took over for Brian Elliott, and that's what gave him the big contract that St. Louis ended up kind of regretting, kind of like a Martin Jones situation. So yeah, but also it's possible, by the way, that he won't be a volume starter in Montreal, right? Like they have Caden Primo, who could come up, and like if Montreal's smart, I think you try to go 50-50 there. Like I don't know. Well, I mean, obviously it depends how good Primo is. They signed Sam Montembeau. They're hoping he can. So like in a perfect scenario, they have a second goalie to, obviously Allen will be the starter with Price out, but you hope that they don't have to play him like every single game because the other goalie is a guaranteed loss. So we'll have to see what happens. Anyways, I added him. I think that in most leagues, unless it's super shallow, you probably want to add him. Like we got a question on Discord today from Artificial Idea asking if they should drop Nedeljkovic for Allen. I said, yeah, do it because Ned is like a tandem guy anyways. Like don't drop like a Cal Peterson for Jake Allen, like someone who I'm expecting to be a decent enough starter for the whole season. But yeah, if it's a situation where there's no starters in free agency at all, then yeah, I definitely grab Allen.
I Lots to say here. I mean, you're talking about throwing out the end of last season. What about all the seasons before he was that's 925 goalie, right? Like I think that there are reasonable I think it's reasonable to suggest that he's not like a de facto starter in the league, like a starting level goalie off top.
I mean, sure, but he's
Okay.
going to have to
Okay.
be on Montreal for now, and we'll hope that he
Sure.
can at least,
Okay.
tread water.
I thought we were. It sounds like we're on the same page, I guess, about Allen. My concern in Montreal is that I think Sam Montembeau is terrible. He was awful in Florida. Any game they gave to him, you wanted to stack whoever their opponents were. If Caden Primo can be good, I'd be very interested to see that for sure. I guess when it comes down to it, I agree with you. Like at the start of the year, I think Jake Allen started really hot last year. I don't really see why he couldn't start hot this year. If his issue is workload, then that's more of a future Elon issue. If I'm talking to your team in the cupful, I would definitely be planning to run him until I had a reason not to. So yeah, I think we're on the same page here. I do want to hop right over to Columbus then, where the hype is starting to ratchet up after Columbus scored 3 power play goals in exhibition action against Detroit last night or Tuesday, anyway, including a highlight reel end-to-end goal from Patrick Laine. Last year, Laine put up a 43-point pace, by far the worst of his career. I think he was basically, I mean, he wasn't usable in fantasy formats last year. Definitely lost a lot. I think there would be a lot of Laine owners from last year who would consider him the reason they lost their league. Now he's going outside the top 100 in Yahoo drafts. How confident are you, Elon, that Laine can bounce back this season?
Yeah, so of course bounce back could mean a lot of things. Like I don't know if he's bouncing back to being like a 75 point, like 45 goal guy, but I think he definitely can improve from last year. Like I remember my talk with Alison Lucan over the summer about the Blue Jackets. She said that they specifically saw a hole where they didn't have a playmaker who was good at dishing the puck and creating offense and giving the puck to Laine to like use his awesome shot. They specifically traded Cam Atkinson for Jake Voracek for this purpose, and it seems obviously it's like 3 preseason games, but it seems like Laine and Voracek have some chemistry together. Of course, those last couple of games where he's picked up 4 points were against Detroit and Buffalo. So I'm not going to like read too much into just this preseason success, but it's nice to see that the power play is doing well. That's always been a problem in Columbus. They're trying something new. Also, Boone Jenner as a net front guy. So I don't know. Like I think definitely the upside is there. I definitely think that Laine's going to probably do better than last year. I think he's going to make the people who drafted him outside the top 100 happy. And yeah, I think it's just a matter of what you're expecting. But I could definitely see him being like a 30 goal, like 65-ish point guy. But I'll obviously need a little bit more data to be super confident. But it seems like things are trending in the right direction, at least. I'm very happy that he and Voracek have been together all preseason. Seems like they're locked
Yeah.
in. We have no idea who the center will be. There's like 5 options of who this center could be. Like it could be Jenner. We've seen with them. They tried Texier in the last game. Roslovic is there. Cole Sillinger has been getting a shot. And I just saw that Max Domi is like healthy apparently, way ahead of
Right.
schedule. So he might be centering that line. So on one hand, that's kind of weird that we don't know, but on the other hand, they've got 5 tries to get something that works for someone to play with Line and Voracek. So yeah, I'm pretty optimistic, I'd have to say.
That's interesting. I do really appreciate you pointing out the exhibition nature of that game because seeing the Twitter love for that Line goal last night was, I mean, when you watch the goal, you're like, oh wow, I mean, he doesn't usually score those end-to-end goals, but you watch the goal, he comes in across the blue line against 3 defenders, all split up. Deeks won very, very nicely, but it's really like a one-on-one goal more than it is a one-on-4 goal. So I definitely have and we're also talking about a preseason game against the Detroit Red Wings. So I definitely am tempering my expectations in terms of whether or not Columbus is going to have like a top half of the league power play. But if they had even like a 15 to 20 power play, that would be a huge boost to those guys who you mentioned, Line and Voracek. I've actually been drafting Voracek anywhere I can get him, which is everywhere because nobody seems to want him. And to me, this is a guy who's been putting up 40, 45, 50 assist seasons most of his career. He's all of a sudden on a line, and he's been stapled to that line, as you said, Elon. He's been playing with Line all preseason. He's stapled to Patrick Laine's wing. I think that Jake Voracek is a guy who, if you're getting him in the last like 3 rounds of your draft, top line, top power play on a bad team, that is a recipe for a sleeper. So I'm really into Voracek this year. I am concerned about the center. I think that we'll see a lot of bouncing around, as you suggested. My guess would be we don't see Max Domi as the top line center, strictly because that line will be caved in at 5-on-5. All 3 of them. That is not their strong point. So I would like to see a Roslovic or a Texier, somebody who can play a little bit of defense between them. But for now, I guess the other guy on that power play I'm wondering about is Zach Werenski. Do you think that his ceiling is any higher now than you did before draft season?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think Werenski is someone who a lot of people assume is like, yeah, he's on this Columbus team that's not looking that good. But don't forget, like, now he doesn't have to compete with Seth Jones for that top power play, so he's going to be there. Plus, we're starting to see little glimmers of hope that maybe they've turned it around and they actually can have a good power play. I read an article on The Athletic about how Boone Jenner, as the net front guy, is like really unlocking something for them. And like, obviously, we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. But yeah, Werenski paced for 47 points last year. Like, he only played 35 games, but he was over a half point per game in those games. And in that, like those 35 games, only 5 power play points. So, like you said, they don't have to have the best power play. Even for him to just be on an average power play and get to like 15, 20 power play points, which you'd usually expect from a mediocre team's top power play defenseman. If he can do that, all of a sudden, we might be looking at like a 55, like 60-point defenseman. Like, I think that Zach Werenski could really explode this year. Obviously there's potential downside. Like, we'll have to see if Columbus is able to keep this up and if they're able to, score even strength. But Werenski's been successful on this team over these past couple of years, even though they haven't scored a lot of goals. Now, if he could add some more power play points, I think that there's a much higher ceiling than a lot of people are expecting.
I definitely think that having Seth Jones leave is a boon, not Jenner, for Werenski. I do think when it comes to Line, the one thing that really freaks me out is the shots on goal total. The shots on goal totals when he moved over to Columbus, like just cratered his shots per game. So I do want to start seeing him become a volume shooter before I get excited about him because in a deeper league, a 30 goal, 60-point scorer is helpful, but in a shallow league, that's kind of, I mean, we're talking about Mike Hoffman in his prime, right? Like a guy who it's like you want to have him because he's shooting a lot, but if he's not shooting a lot, then kind of you're just counting on a goal or an assist, and that's all he's going to give you. Which in points leagues is obviously nice, but in categories leagues there might be some issues. I am curious about this is kind of a short shift paradox question that me and Lewis get into a lot. Power play one versus line one. Do you prefer Boone Jenner, who's currently in the middle six on power play one, or Alexandre Texier, who's been practicing on line one but playing on power play two in Columbus?
Okay, I'll answer that in just a sec. First of all, this whole shots on goal thing, I think once again, like, yeah,
Mm.
like we said, like Line sucked last year. He didn't have a person who could dish him the puck, feed him the puck for him to take those good shots. I think that Voracek there, the whole idea is that he'll be able to get those shots off. So I definitely expect him to improve from that 1.8 shots per game. Like, I don't think that it's just like he forgot how to shoot. I think he didn't have Mark Scheifele or whoever, Brian Little, whoever it used to be, to pass him the puck to take those shots. That's my opinion there. Regarding Texier versus Boone Jenner, give me Boone Jenner, especially in a multi-category league. First of all, Texier is definitely not guaranteed to be centering that top line. Like, I think I saw a quote from Brad Larson after the game yesterday saying he thought Texier was like fine, which is really like an insult. That's like something my mom would say if she doesn't like the food. So now all of a sudden, like Boone Jenner centered that line in other games. Like, he might even get the top line and the top power play, but also in your multi-category league, Jenner's good for your hits. He's better for shots than Texier, so definitely give me Jenner over Texier all day, every day.
I will be honest with you, Elon, a little behind the curtains over here. I was torn between Boone Jenner and Nick Schmaltz the other day when when I cleared up some space on my cupful roster, throwing a few players on the IR. I wound up going with Nick Schmaltz because I felt more confident that he would get the top line, top power play deployment. And then that afternoon, Boone Jenner was taken off line one. But I agree with you. I mean, especially in categories leagues, Boone Jenner scored 30 goals like what, 3 or 4 years ago. I don't think he's going back to those heights, but we've seen what it takes for him to be a useful fantasy asset. And I definitely think he can get there again. We're going to hop over to Edmonton next, where an injury to Kyler Yamamoto has switched up the Oilers' lines. And all of a sudden, we are seeing an overloaded top line in Edmonton of Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Jesse Puljujarvi. Puljujarvi is only 38% rostered and going off the board at 164 in Yahoo drafts, meaning you can basically have him for free. Do you think that Jesse Puljujarvi should be owned in all leagues as long as this deployment holds?
I mean, these are tough questions, right? Like, we always have to remind ourselves it's preseason. Like, these lines
Answer
might
the
get
question, Elon.
the lines might get shaken up like 5 times before the first game next week, right? So you don't want to be too reactionary. That said, yeah, get Puljujarvi. Like, why not? Like, obviously it depends how deep your league is, but if he's going to be playing on the top line with McDavid and Draisaitl, like, everyone thought, oh, they're getting Hyman. This is perfect. You know, like, McDavid finally has that other winger to play with Puljujarvi. Like, what if Hyman ends up unlocking the oil? Like, maybe he's like a great signing for Edmonton because they unlock the ability for them to finally play McDavid and Draisaitl on the same line and still have a decent second line with RNH and Hyman, right? So we don't know exactly how this is going to shake out. Well, I'll bet you that 2 weeks into the season, we're going to see like a whole, like 5 different combinations while they try to figure out what's the best way to do this. But definitely, if there's a possibility that Puljujarvi was already going to be on the line with McDavid, so already he was being drafted too low. Last year he struggled a little bit, but maybe it took a little time. Apparently, like I heard in an interview that it's tough to play with McDavid, right? He's so fast. He expects you to be in a certain place. Maybe you have to kind of learn to be successful in that spot. And I think that Puljujarvi's probably gotten a little better. He used to be, by the way, a high pedigree guy. So all that said, yeah, go for Puljujarvi if you can fit him in. And worst case scenario, you can drop him. But for now, he's playing with probably the 2 best players in the league in McDavid and Draisaitl.
And so I actually agree with you on all of that. I drafted Zach Hyman in the Cupful auction, and I'm definitely not loving what's happening. But I also think that you're right to say that this is kind of what we expected from Puljujarvi anyway, before the draft, even before the season, or I guess before the preseason started. We expected him to be with McDavid. McDavid put up a ridiculous point pace last year, like unprecedented in this era. I don't know how much better the offense can really get on that top line, even with the second best player in the league on there. Like, can McDavid put up 200 points? Like, I am skeptical of, not that I'm ever skeptical of McDavid, but at that point you start to feel a little bit ridiculous. But I guess my question for you about Puljujarvi then is, what do you think his ceiling is given this current deployment?
I mean, I guess if he's not on the top power play, then obviously that caps it a little bit. But I don't see why he couldn't get like 60 points if things break right. So I think that's, I don't know, 65 if we're talking ceiling. I could see 65 if all things break right. Yeah. By the way, Ben, I noticed that this is the second time in a row This is the second time in a row on the show where you've started your response to my response with, I'm actually kind of in agreement with you, as if you're like surprised. Like, I think you and I are smart guys. Of course, you're going to be in agreement with me. We both have the same smart opinions about what people should be doing, and that's go grab Puljujärvi. And if you have Zach Hyman, yeah, like, you know what? He probably was a little bit overhyped. Like, we had Dumb Decision on the show, and he, like, projected him for 66 points in his spreadsheet, which felt a little rich, but, like, you know, Dom had a good reason. He was like, if he's going to be playing with McDavid at even strength and on the power play, that's, like, such a great situation for him. We have to remind ourselves, this is the Oilers. Like, nothing's guaranteed, and probably things are going to switch around throughout the season, like, including that power play spot. So I'd probably draft Hyman more as, like, a 55, 60-point guy. I think he was going a bit rich for some people.
You know what? This is going to shock you, Elon, but I don't agree with you on this
No.
one.
Lock it in. 66 points for Zach Hyman. Just because you drafted him, you're trying to convince yourself.
I mean, part of it is that he's not losing his top power play deployment as far as we know. And I think that is a lot of what you and Dom talked about, was about how Hyman has never put up power play points before. And that's really where a lot of his offensive upside comes from. But the other thing is, like, he was never guaranteed to be with Connor all season, but I also don't see why he isn't going to just end up with Connor or Draisaitl at some point. You know, in thinking a lot about this Puljujärvi Hyman line, as I have been since we found out that they got switched off the same line, they do both have that, like, get in the corner, bang around the forechecking strength. So it does make sense to me that it would be a bit redundant to have them on the same line. But I would expect, like you say, that we do see it get mixed around quite often. And I do think that Hyman, I mean, he was so good last year. Even when he wasn't playing with Matthews and Marner, he was still putting up points. I'm just not that worried about him putting up a 60-point pace on a team with an offense as good as Edmonton.
Sure. I mean, I think it's a little bit of wishful thinking when you're saying that you think that he's, like, for sure going to be on that top power play the whole season long. I think that could
Sure.
definitely change. So we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, we'll see how people click together. Maybe he's a good fit on that power play. Maybe Puljujärvi ends up taking that job.
I guess my point there is more so that we don't have reason to think that he isn't going to be there after, you know, given this news. Like, I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, assuming that a change in preseason is going to drastically reduce Zach Hyman's projections.
Okay. Like, I mean, we didn't have any reason to expect him to have a spot in the first place, right? Like, this is all anyway, whatever. I'll just edit that out. Like, like, yeah, I don't really want to, like, spend more time on the show.
Out. Let's get
I'll get this out. This will be just for the YouTube people. You're saying, Ben, like, oh, well, we haven't seen him off the top power play in preseason. So, like, we've never seen him on the top power play in Edmonton because it's a totally new situation. And we've never seen him on the top power play in Toronto. We've never seen him in the top power play on any team. So I don't see why you could confidently say, or how you can confidently say, oh, yeah, he's a top power play guy all season long. Like, I think
you're misunderstanding. My point is more so that I think that Zach Hyman, I'm not ready to downgrade my preseason projection for Zach Hyman. That's all. I'm not saying, like, book it, like, and more likely to get 70 than 50. Like, that's not where I am at all. I just think that, like, I'm still as high on him as I was a week ago.
Okay. I'm not.
That's fine.
All right.
But so, hey, you're pricing yourself out of the trade market, my friends.
That's all right. You could hang on to him. I'd rather trade for Puljujärvi, even though he's probably going up in price.
You would rather have Puljujärvi?
No, I'm saying I'd rather trade for him and spend a lot less than spend the big bucks you're probably asking for from Hyman.
I bet you that the trade package would be similar given the current state of the conversation. Nobody's trading Puljujärvi after. Nobody in tier 1 is trading Puljujärvi after this news, I would bet you.
Fair. All right, so take us to that commercial break and we can finish this off.
When we come back, Elon is going to drop the hottest take of the preseason, and we're going to get into a couple of rookie players that we're looking at. You're listening to Short Shifts. Do you have to do a live read?
No.
Okay.
F that.
Welcome back to Short Shifts. Elon, you got a hot take for us. I teased it before we went to break. I'm very curious. I'm dying to know. The people are dying to know. Elon, what is your hottest take of the preseason?
I don't even know if this is a hot take at this point.
No, I think it is.
Okay, I think that Rasmus Dahlin is going to hit free agency in the Cupful in a lot of Cupful divisions within a month or two into the season. And so obviously this is like a hot take, and I'm not saying it's guaranteed to happen, but I'm seeing a lot of red flags for Rasmus Dahlin. Like, first of all, he already wasn't worth rostering last year for the whole season. He only had 34 point pace on the 2020-21 season. Buffalo was bad. So, maybe you could excuse it away. COVID season, all of that. Now we're going into this season. Buffalo looks even worse. Like Reinhardt is gone. We're looking at top line Casey Middlestat as the center. Like Jeff Skinner is like a lock for line one. You always got to be nervous when you hear that. Plus, I've been seeing news on Roto World from like BuffaloNews.com articles. Quote from Coach Don Granato saying, obviously, there's a lot in this game we need to fix, specifically defensive zone exits where we really struggled. So apparently, like Dahlin's been having a rough preseason, which is fair. Like I don't know if he has, like he's a very talented player. Obviously, he was drafted first overall, but I don't think he was trained to handle a situation where the team is being caved in, like I expect the Sabres to be all season long. I think this is going to be a really tough sledding for still a very young player, only 21 years old. So I don't know. I think that this season may be a lot like next season. I think this season may be a lot like last season. And while last season people were obviously still holding out for hope because it had been so recently that Dahlin had been so good. I wonder if this year is where people finally start not having as long of a leash. And if he struggles out of the gate this time, maybe he's starting to hit free agency before you know it.
I completely agree. Buffalo looks like a disaster. I'm worried about Dahlin in like a development sense, right? Like at this point, we're coming into his fourth season in the league, and he's not even showing hints of being the guy who he thought he looked like he could be as a rookie. That to me screams like that's at the point of a development curve where I start to think, oh, this team might have effed him up.
Yeah, totally. Like, I mean, it would be nice if he could have good players where if you make a breakout, things could happen. Like, it just seems like right now this is going to be a really scary year for the Sabres. Like, they just waived Aaron Dell and they sent Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen to the minors, which means their goalie tandem is like Tokarski and Craig Anderson. Like, come on. Like, I've talked about how with the Sabres, I wonder if maybe some of their players struggled a bit just because you have to play, like the defensemen, I mean, like Burns and Karlsson, maybe you have to like play a little bit more cautiously when you know your goalie is not someone you could rely on to stop the puck. I think there's something mental going on there. Don't forget, these are still people playing a game. It's not all spreadsheets and it's humans. And I think that with the goaltending being as bad as it's likely going to be, with the forwards being as like everyone looks bad. Like, Dahlin is a great player, but I don't think he can do this all by himself. And if anything, I think he may just have to hunker down and try to play well defensively. So yeah, anyways, I would definitely not be excited about him in a 1 year league right now, or a 2 year league, I should say.
Can I give you my hot take from Buffalo?
Let's hear it.
This is going to make your podcast host lose his mind. I think Jeff Skinner is going to be the most valuable fantasy player in Buffalo this season.
I mean, it's possible that that could be true, and still he has no fantasy value this season.
Yeah, I mean, we talked earlier about how Columbus, it's like, oh, you can always get a top line, top power play guy on a terrible team. And that's another guy who it kind of just feels like he's been treading water for so long that you got to worry a little bit that well, I mean, I think a lot of people are just assuming that the 40 goals are long in the past for Jeff Skinner, but he's the guy of anyone on that team. If I had to bet it all, if I had to go all in on somebody who I thought could be fantasy relevant, I think it is Jeff Skinner, just because the shot totals are there. Otherwise, I mean, Victor Olofsson, you talked about this the other day. He's really just a power play specialist. Casey Middlestat doesn't do anything except for pass the puck. Yeah, it's a bad team. Let's go to our final segment though, Elon. Let's not dig into the Sabres any more than we have to. And I want to throw a couple names at you and see where these names land on your hype meter, your preseason hype meter. This is a segment about rookies, and they're the rookies that are really making a name for themselves in the preseason. So I want to know how excited you are about these rookies on a scale of 1 to 10. All of these players, by the way, Elon, are sub 10% rostered in Yahoo, which means that in almost any league, except for the couple tier 1, you can probably find them on the waiver wire. We're going to start in Detroit. I think a guy who came out of nowhere. I would say the other names on our list, they're guys that I think we wouldn't be shocked to know we're talking about already. But Lucas Raymond has kind of come out of nowhere for me. Obviously, fourth overall pick very recently. Prospect guys have been singing his praises. I don't think that it's a shock that he's good. I just think it's a shock that he's this good, or has been this good in preseason this soon. 6 points in 4 preseason games, staple to Dylan Larkin on line one and power play one. Elon, how excited are you about Lucas Raymond on a scale of 1 to 10? Where are you at on the hype meter?
Okay, well, I guess I'm gonna pull a Brian here, which I always get annoyed at, but now I understand where he's coming from. Like, I'm not just gonna answer the question. I gotta just talk a little bit first. I can't go right to the 1 to 10. So first of all, like these rankings, like we have to be like clear here. Like when we're talking about hype meter for like a rookie going into their first season, that's not like a first overall pick or something. Like I'm talking about someone who I'm excited to grab out of free agency to give a shot out on my team that I'll be quick to drop if it doesn't work out. And I think that's how you could be really successful in fantasy is like, you do your draft, you get your like reliable players, you get your JVRs and whoever in the later rounds, are going to be solid. But then you got to leave some space for some swings that just, if just one of them turns out to be like Jason Robertson, all of a sudden you're laughing. You just got like a superstar player, like super late in your draft or in free agency. And I think that Lucas Raymond is someone who, probably isn't going to be the next Jason Robertson, but there's a chance. Like, if he's going to be on the top line with Dylan Larkin, like clearly he's benefiting from Verana being out and he's getting this shot. If he's looked good in preseason, he has a good pedigree. So if he can be the new, Mantha, who's had good seasons in that spot in the past, sure. I think that my hype would be decently high. Like, I think he's the kind of guy, and I think all these guys we're going to talk about are going to be guys, if he's going to be getting top deployment in his rookie season, we don't yet know what his ceiling is. I think that you probably want to try to make some space for him on your roster. Just the art of it is knowing when to cut bait, right? Like, obviously, you don't want to hold too long. At the same time, you don't want to cut after like one game. Like, I remember actually in Johnny Gaudreau's first year, I drafted him or I added him out of free agency. Like, I had him on my team, and I think he had like a week, like 7 games or 6 games to start the year. He ended up getting benched. Then after that, he exploded, ended up having like this amazing rookie season. And I think it wasn't even a keeper league. So I don't know. Like, I blew it, right? Like, I lost out on Gaudreau and all of that production. So, give him a game or two, but at the same time, be ready to cut Lucas Raymond if it doesn't work out. But I'm very interested in what I've seen so far, and he should definitely be on people's radars.
I agree, and I definitely agree with what you said at the start, which is like we're kind of talking about deeper leagues here, right? Like I'm not dropping a top line, top power play guy on a good team that I got at a crazy discount in like the 14th round of my 10-team league here. But in like a couple team where I, have a couple of streamer spots and it's looking like, oh, I just am looking for an upside swing. I'm really, really intrigued by Lucas Raymond at this point, just because of the opportunity here. I mean, you mentioned Anthony Mantha, and I don't know about that comparison just because Mantha's value came so much from peripherals, and he was able to get shifted off of that top line in Detroit and still be valuable in some formats. Obviously, last year no one was valuable, but in the past. And I think Raymond is a guy who it just seems like Detroit doesn't really have an option except to put him on the top line. Like if you put him on the third or fourth line, he's just going to be, at best treading water, not to use the same expression twice here. But I think that he's got a really, really interesting opportunity with Jakub Verana out, and I'm curious to see how it goes. So I'm gonna jump you in line here on the hype meter, Elon, and I'm gonna put Raymond at 8 out of 10.
I'm going to put 9 out of 10. How about
You're
that?
lying. You're lying.
I don't know, whatever. I'm like really in my brain like 3 out of 10, but like for the purposes of this game, let's say 8 out of 10. Like again, it's like this is a different hype meter than a Jesse Pugliarvi hype meter who's like going to be on the top line with McDavid. This is a guy you're taking a shot on. None of these guys that we're talking about, I'm like going to say guaranteed they're going to be on your team all season long. But I think if you grab all 3 of these players we're going to talk about, there's a decent chance that one of them might hit, and I just don't know which one it'll be. But Lucas Raymond could definitely be it.
And it's 9 out of 10. You heard it here first, folks. 9 out of 10 for Elon that it will be Lucas Raymond.
Yeah, the next guy's going to be 11 out of 10. Let's go.
I'm just going to say this one time before we hop off this player. I think it's pronounced Raymond in German, but I have no idea, and I haven't heard anyone say that since his draft year. But anyway, I'm gonna plant my flag on the Lucas Raymond. I don't know how to finish the sentence. Let's go to Nashville, Elon. Subject of my new hat that I'm wearing for this record, Philip Tomasino has 2 goals in his first 3 preseason games. On Thursday, he was not practicing in the top 6 anymore, but that's where he's been for most of the preseason, and he's seeing power play time. How excited are you feeling about the Philip Tomasino share that you have in our keeper league?
Yeah, I mean, I just added him out of free agency. He's another guy, right? First of all, he's a prospect that Victor Nuno came on keeping Karlsson around a month ago now when we were talking Calder candidates, and he was like saying that Tomasino's a sleeper that not many people are thinking about, a really strong season last year in the AHL. Now we'll see what he can do in the NHL. Yeah, checking out GameDayLineTweets.com, my go-to source for any line combinations, because unlike some other sites where you just see lines, you don't even know if they're still up to date or what the source is. You go to GameDayLineTweets.com, you see the tweets, you see where the lines come from. And I'm seeing Adam Vingen tweeted today saying that Nashville was practicing with Tomasino on a line with Glass and Cousins on the third line. The second line, though, was like Granlund with Tolvanen and Luke Kunin. That doesn't seem like Tolvanen and Kunin are like locked in top six. So I think there's definitely opportunity for Tomasino. We'll see what happens on the power play. So I'm pretty into him as someone who could maybe surprise us. Maybe a little bit less than Lucas Raymond, just because he's not like, a top liner and guaranteed top power play guy. But one thing that Tomasino has going in his favor is you could make a really sweet fantasy team name out of his name. Call your team Tomasino Evil, and then you could use that emoji of the monkey, the Sino Evil monkey with the hands over his eyes. By the way, I love that emoji. That's one of my favorite at work. Whenever I want to ask someone for a favor, I'm like, hey, can you just check this thing for me quickly? And then with the Evil monkey, like, how can they say no? So anyway, all that
Top
reason
tier
to say,
emoji for sure.
yeah,
I agree.
yeah, I like that one and grimacing. I use those for both the same
Huge,
purpose.
yes. Elon, I'm on sunglasses for me is in that tier, but otherwise, yeah.
Totally. Okay. Brian's a big like tongue out smile, which always is kind of like, really? Okay. I got a tongue out smile, but to each their own, and that's what makes Brian special. So Tomasino, I guess I gave Raymond 9 out of 10, so I'll give Tomasino a 6 out of 10. But definitely someone that if you're in a deeper league, I would grab him even in a one-year league. And I definitely liked the shot that I took on him in our keeper league. It's only a keep 8, so it's not like the kind of thing where I'm going to hold him just because it's a keeper league, even if he's not good. Like he's going to have to produce on my roster. But out of free agency, it's more fun to take a shot on him than like a Boone Jenner, who I think I had in that spot before, who like I kind of like the chance that he'll have on the top power play, but at the same time, he's obviously not going to be a keeper.
And it's a deep league where forwards are heavier rated than defensemen. So I would say, like, even though our rosters aren't bigger than the Cupful, there are fewer forward options because they are better than defensemen. I agree. I guess if I were to sort of relate them, Raymond and Tomasino, I would say, like, in a best case scenario, I could see Lucas Raymond putting up like 55, 60 points this season. I could see Tomasino, like, if like wildest expectations being met, 40, 45 points. He's Ellie Tolvanen to me in a best case scenario this season. I don't think they're similar players, but I just mean like in terms of his production as a rookie. I could see him. It's just so tough to be valuable in Nashville for forwards. So
yeah, I mean, but you would have said that last year about Jason Robertson, right? You would have said ceiling of like 35 points if we were doing this going into the season. So I feel like with these rookies, you always have to leave that room. Like, I don't think you could really talk ceiling like that for a rookie as much as some other players. Like, we've never seen
my
anything.
expectation of his ceiling is. I'm not saying his actual, like, this is gospel truth. Like, I know what will happen. And yeah, obviously I'm baking some uncertainty into that. I'm saying for me, Lucas Raymond, I could see him like if everything breaks right, putting up 55, 60. I just can't see Tomasino doing that because of the team he's on. And yes, you're right. Like, Jason Robertson way outplayed my expectations last year, but he was also on a team that was outperforming all of my expectations.
Yeah.
I wouldn't bet on Nashville doing that, but yes, of course, it could happen.
And at Detroit, you're aware that Raymond's on Detroit, right?
Yes, but
when you're saying like because of the team he's on.
I'm also aware, yeah, I should say his deployment, right? Because he looks to be playing in all of the high leverage offensive opportunities, whereas Philip Tomasino seems like a guy who's going to be stuck in that like quicksand Nashville middle six where just like nobody it's like the Bermuda Triangle of fantasy elements, right?
Right,
one more
enough.
player to get to. We are getting into medium shifts territory here. We'll hop over to the, I guess, San Jose, not the Bay, San Jose. William Eklund, 5 assists in 4 games, including 2 on the power play. All signs to this point show that he is likely to make the team, and he's been seeing top 6 and top power play deployment at times. I do know he was practicing on power play 2 recently, but I think overall it's just, I'm seeing good deployment for William Eklund, which is all that really matters. I think the one thing I want to add before I throw this one to you, Elon, is that I don't think people really understand how good William Eklund is, like especially casual folks, because he came out in this draft where everybody was expecting it to be a mad draft. It was an underhyped draft. And I don't mean that in like terms of how much value was. I don't mean that it was underrated, but I just mean it was very, very underwhelming to the average fan. and then he went 7th overall. So I really don't think like most people have William Eklund even on their radar. But if you've been listening to fantasy podcasts all summer, you've been hearing our pal Victor Nuno, Cam Robertson, Cam Robinson. Everybody has been talking about how William Eklund is the best fantasy option in this past 2021 draft. So I am definitely interested in William Eklund and how he does this season. Elon, what about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. If he can make the team, I think there's definitely a lot of space for him to succeed. You even talked about these power plays. Again, at GameDayLineTweets.com, I'm looking at the Sharks and the power plays they're running out today. It didn't even seem like a PP1 and a PP2. Like, listen
Yeah,
to these
agreed.
units. It was like Burns, Couture, Meyer, and then Jonathan Dahlin and Nick Bonino. That was power play 1. And then power play 2 had Eric Karlsson, Hurdle, LeBanc, Eklund, and a guy Peterson. So I really feel like this is, first of all, doesn't look like power plays that are going to stick. And second of all, these seem like 50-50s. So I think Eklund's going to get his power play time. That's all I mean to say. And if he's going to be playing, on a line with Hurdle, like definitely good things can happen. I know that what's his name? Barabanov. Oh yeah, that's it. I know that Barabanov is injured right now, so we'll see. He's going to probably take one of those spots. But yeah, Eklund's this really high upside guy that people were excited about. We didn't expect him to make the team this year, but obviously now with Evander Kane not likely to start the season with the team, that just opens up another spot. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. By the way, for super the deepest of deep deeps, Jonah Gadjevich was waived by Vancouver, and then he was grabbed by the Sharks today. And a lot of people are saying that he's going to make the team. So if you're looking for like a banger fourth line, again, like your super deep dynasty type leagues, I was reading an article by Sheng Peng saying how he thinks Gadjevich fits in really well for the Sharks. He's a guy that wasn't going to make the team for Vancouver, and now he's looking to make the team for San Jose. But anyways, that's a whole other thing. There's also a guy Weatherby on San Jose, who Mr. Weatherby. Brian loves mentioning people with fun names, and so he's looking like he's going to be the fourth line center. So yeah, we're gonna have some new exciting names on the San Jose Sharks this season.
I mean, from the team that brought you Barclay Goodrow and etc., they've always got some good names down in San Jose. Yeah, you know what, Elon, I've been really not ruminating, but just I've been thinking about what you said about Philip Tomasino, and I was thinking back to listening to Victor's episode on your show, and you're right, he did basically like kind of convince me that I should be more excited about Philip Tomasino than I had been. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that I'm feeling like Eklund and Tomasino are maybe just a step below Raymond for me at this moment, but overall, I kind of could see any one of them if things break right, popping 50 to 60 points this year, and that's exciting enough for me to roster Eklund in 2 leagues, which I'm hoping to see what happens. I will warn that both Detroit and San Jose have brutal schedules to start the year. If you're in a deep league, you are probably not going to get them in for more than one game this week, but definitely some fantasy relevance to be found in the rookie this class of rookies to start the year.
Yeah, like I said at the start, like I just kind of feel like I think one of them will be great. I just don't know which. So if
Yeah.
somehow you have space to grab all three and hold them for a couple of weeks, and then just keep the one that's popping, then you're probably in the best case. But that's obviously hard to do because then you're gonna have to drop some people. Ben, this has been so much fun. I love short shifts. I can't believe we're already done the show. If this was keeping Karlsson, we'd be throwing to our first ad break, and then we'd still have another hour and a half to go.
I would not be able to handle it. That's why you put me on the short shift, Elon.
All right, you want to take us out?
I don't know. I've never done our outro before. I have
All right,
no
so
idea what we say.
wait, what's Lewis is saying again? He says, keep your sticks down.
Keep them short and short those shifts.
Keep your sticks on the ice and your shifts short. So it's like keep something
and your shifts short.
I know it ends with and your shifts short, but what's the first thing? Keep your head down.
Keep your sticks on. It's not stick on the ice. There's no
Keep
way.
keep
your head up. Is it your head up?
I don't know. Anyone in the chat know?
No one show Lewis this part. Keep your
Okay,
shifts.
I'm gonna make up my own version. Throw to me to close out the show, and I'm gonna make up my own.
No. Why
Keep on keeping Karlsson and your shifts short.
Elon, my good friend, thank you so much for joining me. And as my guest, I'm going to extend the olive branch to you to close us out of here.
All right. Yeah. Thanks everyone for listening. Brian and I will be back at you with a full length episode on Sunday where we're going to be going over more of these preseason news and notes that probably are going to lose relevance very quickly afterwards, but still fun to think about. And then after that, we're already going to be into the season. I can't believe it, Ben. So until all of that, I'm going to do a little mashup of the Keeping Karlsson and Short Shifts outros here. So why don't Keeping Karlsson and Short Shifts outro here. So I invite everyone to keep keeping Karlsson and your shifts short.
Keep on trucking and your shift's short. Thank you,
Yeah.
Sir Fonty. Thank you, Elon, for joining me. What a fun time. I love short shifts. It's so nice to be back.
Yay. Yeah, that was so fun. And I think we had some really interesting discussions. I marked down like 20 edit points. So that's just me being pedantic, but it's going to be a super tight show afterwards. So everyone who watched on YouTube, I think do yourself a favor now and go download the episode and then
We'll
you can
definitely do
compare
that.
it.
But I also think if I were editing, I would have like 2 edit points on that show. I thought it went so good.
No, but my edit points are like, I should share with you. Like, it was really good, but there's always, like, when you like start a sentence, like I did this too. Like, you say the wrong word and then you retake the word and just say the right word. I don't want to have that on the show. I always cut that out. That's why when you listen to Keeping Karlsson, it sounds like I never say wrong words.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not human.
That's life.
You know, that's where you're the fantasy robot because you're the man who doesn't misspeak.
I guess I'm obsessed. I don't know. You listen to
you
this
are
American...
definitely sorry.
This American Life doesn't. They don't misspeak words. That's for sure.
I mean, yeah. If there's one podcast I refuse to compare myself to, it's that one.
Play smart. Let me just do this again, just in case. Okay.
Well, let me do it.
Well, you threw it to me. I'm just gonna, in case I want to edit it back in. You said, Elon, why don't you finish it off, and I'm just gonna record myself saying the ending.
All right.
Well, what do you want to take out the whole?
Did somebody give you the answer?
It's in the chat. Fantasy Tidbits.
Play smart. Thank you, Fantasy Tidbits. You rock, dude.
Okay.
Do you think that's Lewis's burner?
No, it's not. Okay, so I'm just trying to remember how I said it. So you said throw it to me. I said, okay, I'm just gonna say it again. Thanks, Ben. This has been a blast, and thank you everyone so much for listening. We'll be back at you with another long episode of Keeping Karlsson this weekend, where Brian and I will break down the rest of everything that goes on in the preseason before we finally get into our meat and potatoes, right? The real thing that we are known for in Keeping Karlsson, which is breaking down regular season action. So we'll get to all that in just a little bit. But until then, make sure you're subscribed, and then make sure to play smart and keep your shifts short.
I knew that's what it was.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. I just knew it.
I'd love to be the This American Life of Hockey podcasts.
And I'm the what was the money one that they Planet
Money? Oh yeah.
We're Planet Money.
They never misspeak either.
Yeah,
none of the podcasts I listen to.
We do. That's the charm of short shifts, is that we're a disaster.
No. The charm is the hot takes. The smart ideas.
Right.
In the end, I always wonder if like the answers even matter. Like, it's not like, I feel like the advice wasn't you saying 8 out of 10 for Lucas Raymond and me saying 9 out of 10. The advice was there's a guy named Lucas Raymond who's a rookie that's doing well, and then like everyone's now knows it, and then the conversation around it is just sort of like some entertaining stuff. But I have a feeling for most of the people who listen to these podcasts, they're not even really wanting the advice as much as just to get the gist of what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, the reason to watch a YouTube video or listen to a podcast is to get news and then get analysis too. So yeah, I think you're bang on, and we've been banging on for too long.
We gotta get out of here.
Let's get out of here. I'm gonna go watch Survivor. Everyone.
Oh, you haven't watched it yet?
It came out last night. What are you talking about?
I watched it before I went to bed last night.
Oh, how'd you watch it? I know how you watched it. Let me tell you this, Elon. I have Paramount Plus now. They don't put the episodes up.
So you know what? I hope Paramount Plus is listening right now. I would be a subscriber if you I'm subscribed to Crave, and back when Game of Thrones was on, you were able to watch Game of Thrones like live as it was airing. So Paramount Plus, I'll do it. But right now, I'm not gonna say. I don't incriminate myself, but I'm having to force myself to watch Survivor in other ways. I'd prefer to just pay for a streaming service where I could stream it, but unfortunately that's not available to me right now. I'm in the market.
Do you know that you could watch it for free the next day? Legally?
Well, I don't want to. I want to watch it that on that day. I want to like listen to Survivor Know-It-Alls when I go to sleep.
Okay. Okay, that's fair. Speaking of which, Elon, when are we doing our Survivor cast for the patrons? I think it's just we got to give it to the super patrons. They want to hear our takes, you know?
Okay. Well, I don't know. Let's do like a what do they call it? A petition? Like if we get 100 signatures, then we'll do the show kind of
Okay.
thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to do a show that only
There's
5 people are going to listen to.
there's no way we're gonna get a. How many were you getting on Card Talk or whatever it was called?
Oh, near mint.
Card Boys.
I think it was like I could go check actually. I'm not sure. Definitely wasn't 100.
Okay. Yeah.
But
Well, I would cap our odds then.
there's a lot more people who watch Survivor than that collect hockey cards. So I feel like the market is a lot higher.
Yeah, but I think that anyone who like if you were to tell me as a Survivor super fan who doesn't play fantasy hockey, the guys who like fantasy hockey are doing a Survivor podcast, I'd be like, cool. I'm not gonna listen to that.
I guess it's like people who like listening to you.
Yeah.
Maybe are the types of people that are going to listen to our Survivor podcast. So there's
Which
a
is
bunch of
why I
those
think we put it behind the paywall for our adoring fans. You gotta first of all, you gotta leave Brian. He's holding you back. And then we'll go and make a
for
Survivor
Survivor
podcast.
talk.
I won't even make you prep. So you get your Sundays back.
All right, that sounds great. So yeah, keeping Karlsson is over. Now we're a Survivor podcast. Are
I'm
we
gonna
still?
have
We're
to-
still live on YouTube, by the way.
I know.
I'm gonna end this stream. Bye everyone. Thanks for
everyone.
watching.
Thank you guys.
Okay, it's over. I ended.